Hello, in this video we'll be talking about hydrogen peroxide and using it to clear up or to eliminate a yeast infection. Now, hydrogen peroxide is a very common antiseptic that is sold in many stores around the world, and I think at least for Americans the typical way we see it is in a small brown cylinder bottle. And it usually comes in a 3% concentration at the store. Now, although hydrogen peroxide is often a really great idea for external injuries such as burns or scrapes, it's not a very good thing to use internally. So, for example, you never want to drink even a 3% hydrogen peroxide solution. And the reason for this is the body is full of an enzyme known as catalase. And catalase is very capable of breaking down hydrogen peroxide, which is H2O2, so 2 hydrogen atoms and 2 oxygen atoms. And it breaks it down into water and free oxygen. Now, if you have a strong concentration of hydrogen peroxide and you drink it, the catalase in the body will begin to rip this solution up and create a lot of extra oxygen. And this can have very serious side effects such as brain damage and things along those lines. So to avoid severe injury to your body, you never want to drink hydrogen peroxide. It is just a horrible idea. And even if you're trying to, say, wipe out some bad bacteria in your digestive system, it's just a terrible idea to try to get hydrogen peroxide into your intestines, because when you drink it, the catalase will rapidly destroy that hydrogen peroxide. So you're not going to get hardly any of this chemical in your intestines anyway because of the extreme power of the enzyme catalase. Now, concerning yeast infections, a typical 3% hydrogen peroxide solution is likely not going to do anything to a yeast infection. You may need something close to a 15% concentration of hydrogen peroxide to start inhibiting any of the candida, and you may even require stronger concentrations. So, because high concentrations of hydrogen peroxide can cause mild burns to the skin, it's just not a good idea to use this chemical to clear up a yeast infection. There are so many other natural alternative remedies that are safer and very effective that you can use in lieu of, say, a potentially risky chemical like hydrogen peroxide. So let's take a look at some of the research regarding hydrogen peroxide and yeast infections. A 1995 study published in Infectious Diseases in Obstetrics and Gynecology looked at how well hydrogen peroxide would inhibit candida and what role catalase played in this process. All the strains of candida used in the study did possess the enzyme catalase. The study found that non-albicans species of candida typically possessed a much higher tolerance for hydrogen peroxide than candida albicans did. Non-albican species of candida required around 4 times as much hydrogen peroxide to get the same effect. And candida albicans, if you didn't know, is usually responsible for the majority of yeast infections. So it is rare if you have a non-albican species of candida causing your yeast infection. Strangely enough, the research found that there was no observable correlation between a candida strain's weakness to hydrogen peroxide and the amount of catalase that was measured. The study found that the minimum inhibitory concentration of hydrogen peroxide, and what this means is it's the smallest amount that the study found that would successfully stop the development of yeast. So it's the minimum or lowest amount of concentration required to inhibit the yeast. And of course, the study found that the minimum inhibitory concentration for the strains ranged from about 150 milligrams per liter all the way up to around 3,000 milligrams per liter. Another study published in 2010 in the Open Dentistry Journal looked at the minimum inhibitory concentrations for various species of Candida. The study found that Candida albicans was inhibited by about 400 milligrams per liter of hydrogen peroxide, and Candida glabrata and Candida parasilosis both required over a 799 milligram per liter concentration of hydrogen peroxide to cause inhibition of the yeast. So we can see that we need typically a stronger concentration of hydrogen peroxide to do anything to the yeast cells. And as a result, it's just not prudent to use hydrogen peroxide as an alternative Candida treatment. Now, there are some cautions to be aware of. Say you do ingest some hydrogen peroxide. Some of the signs that this is causing a problem include foaming at the mouth, an upset or sick stomach, and even belching and vomiting. And again, some foods, if they contain too much hydrogen peroxide, can even cause food poisoning due to this. Well, if you're looking for some powerful alternative to hydrogen peroxide for a yeast infection treatment, feel free to stop by Candida Hub and find out tons of various natural and alternative remedies for yeast infections. And there is a link to the article on hydrogen peroxide and yeast infections right below. And you can also, again, as I just said, check out the site for other natural remedies for yeast infections. And while you're there at Candida Hub, you can also find out about a all-natural treatment for yeast infections that gets rid of them in about 12 hours time, and it's very safe and affordable to use. And the treatment is so efficacious that it is guaranteed to get rid of genital and oral yeast infections in just 12 hours time. So again, if you'd like to find out a bit more, you can always stop by and check this out. It'll be discussed on the hydrogen peroxide page, which of course is linked in the description. Okay, hey, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video was helpful and gave you some answers. So get better very soon, and I'll see you later.